What is going on, fight fans and full-time family? We've got a few things I'm sure you are all aware of that I want to talk about and give you my perspective on. And the first thing being Gilbert Burns testing positive for COVID-19 out of UFC 251 headliner versus Kamaru Usman. This is news. You're all aware of this. This was announced yesterday. And when this news was announced, it was announced that Kamaru Usman would not be boarding the plane to fight Island and likely would not be finding a replacement opponent. But, as you guys are aware, Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal both offered to step in on short notice and replace Gilbert Burns against Kamaru Usman. This was somewhat of a shocker, especially considering Jorge Masvidal should have been in this fight in the first place, a lot of people believe, but the UFC was not willing to pay him what he thought he was worth in renegotiations. Therefore, Jorge Masvidal was the odd man out. Gilbert Burns was still a very appropriate number one contender. He was a fine fight to take the fight if Masvidal was unable to get the deal done, because if you're talking about number one contender, that is Gilbert Burns. He beat Tyron Woodley. He knocked out Damian Maia. I mean, Gilbert Burns has been on an almost unfathomable run, especially considering the fact he used to fight at lightweight. Now he's up at welterweight, beating the best welterweights in the world in shutout performances, and he was going to be fighting Kamaru Usman, but unfortunately, after his COVID-19 test, he was forced to withdraw. Now, honestly, this was bound to happen. I mean, over the last few weeks, we've seen cornermen in the UFC test positive for COVID-19, and I low-key was starting to wonder, like, okay, these cornermen are testing positive for COVID-19. Haven't they been training with this guy for the last 2 weeks? Haven't they been rolling? And if it's the boxing coach who tests positive, haven't they been hitting mitts? You don't wear a mask when you're hitting mitts, so how is the fighter not positive? Well, now it has happened, and it happened in one of the biggest fights of the year. A welterweight title fight on a card that had 3 title fights. The main event, Gilbert Burns test positive for COVID-19. It was bound to happen with all these cornermen testing positive. So now, the news that you can use, the real reason I'm making this video, Jorge Masvidal stepping in, pending a COVID-19 test, will officially be replacing Gilbert Burns to fight Kamaru Usman at UFC 251. This couldn't have worked more perfect for Jorge Masvidal. Honestly, this is a win-win at this point. It doesn't get any better. For one, obviously, he's going to be getting the money he was asking for, or he would not be taking this fight. If he wouldn't take this fight with the full fight camp because they weren't willing to pay him the money, why would he say, okay, I'll take it on 1 week's notice if you're not going to give me the money? So Jorge Masvidal is getting what he's asking for, and on top of that, he's got an excuse to lose already. And that's my guy. He don't need an excuse to lose. We've seen this man pull off miracles over the last couple of years. He was supposed to lose to Ben Askren. He was supposed to lose to Darren Till. I mean, the organic run Jorge Masvidal put himself on with what he was able to accomplish, especially in that Askren fight, it's been meteoric, the rise he's been on. So now he's making more money than he's ever made in his career, and now he's going to be taking on Kamaru Usman, who is one of the best welterweights we've seen in a long time. I mean, he's never lost a round in the UFC. He's been known by UFC, the people that make matches in the UFC and have to find opponents for fighters. Kamaru Usman has been known as one of the most ducked fighters of all time. Before he was the champion, he was hard to find matches for. And so this is a tough matchup for anybody. Ben Askren was a tough matchup. Darren Till was a tough matchup. Jorge Masvidal has never been scared of a tough matchup, but he's not going to cave just because of fan pressure when he knows what he's worth and he knows what leverage is. Unlike a lot of the fans that were saying Jorge Masvidal was scared, who don't know what leverage is, Masvidal and his manager do. And then now they were able to negotiate that leverage into getting the money he wants, and he's taking this fight on short notice. So if he loses, it ain't like You know what? He took it on 1 week's notice against one of the best welterweights in the world. There's a great chance he loses this fight. But if he wins, though, I mean, this is a great opportunity here. If he can win, oh my God, that would be so nuts. I mean, just to knock out Darren Till in London in his backyard, to go get the fastest knockout in UFC history over Ben Askren, to fight Nate Diaz in the BMF championship, to going and possibly upsetting Kamaru Usman on 1 week's notice for the welterweight title, that's almost too much to ask for. Like, Masvidal could have retired before the Usman fight and already achieved heights he was likely not going to achieve. Politics have never been on his side. He's lost more split decisions probably than anybody else in the UFC. And it's not because he lost those fights, it's because the judges said it that night. Some of them were blatant robberies. So to be here, just to even beat Nate Diaz and win the BMF title was already a mountaintop. It was already something that Masvidal could ride into the sunset on. Now he's getting this opportunity, and like I said, it's a win-win situation. So it's unfortunate Gilbert Burns was unable to get this opportunity. He for sure deserved it with what he was able to accomplish in beating Tyron Woodley and finishing Damian Maia. But this is the MMA gods just giving Masvidal what he deserves, because when you talk about the baddest motherfucker, when you talk about one of the realest in the business, when you talk about a born fighter, a bred fighter, you're talking about Jorge Masvidal. He did it before it was cool, before a lot of people were even watching MMA, and when people still called MMA UFC, Masvidal was in the backyard, Kimbo Slice's backyard, boxing with people above his weight class. I mean, and so to go from there to one of the biggest stars in the UFC, making millions of dollars, I mean, it's only fitting. So I cannot wait for this. This fight is probably bigger than the Gilbert Burns fight for sure. And we still have a whole week to build this fight. It's not like it's 1 day's notice. No one's going to know about it. I can't wait. UFC 251 is lit. Still 3 title fights. You still got Volkanovski Holloway. You still got Peter Yan, Jose Aldo. I can't wait. With that being said, man, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.